All right, I will get started. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. For those of you online, we do have a second computer, and if you're running into any problems that you can't hear me or have a question, there's a raise hand function within Teams that you can press, and we'll be able to hear your question, and or you can also type in your questions. Yes, wonderful. So we are recording this presentation in two fashions. We're recording the meeting live, and we're also recording back here, and we'll have that ready to be shared out, and so Alana's going to help us with that. So it's great to have everybody almost on site. We're not able to still have parents in the building, but this is Campus Village, so we can have parents in Campus Village because it's not a school. That is the regulation there. A lot of new things have been going on at DAIS, especially the recent news around being sold to North Anglia. We will have a Q&A portion at the end of the presentation, and so if you have questions about that, I would just save it to the end. I will say I got to meet with the Director of Teaching and Learning through the North Anglia family, and I was very happy to hear that their plans are not to, I'll use the word micromanage. They know they bought a successful school, a successful organization. They don't want to get in the way of that success. But as we grow, tapping into those, kind of the MIT program, the Juilliard program, the UNICEF partnerships that they have, but as well as being tapping into a much larger organization to find out, hey, what are these schools doing, and learning from each other to get better every day. Today, we're going to focus on, first of all, introducing my new assistant principal, Ms. Angela Beach, talking briefly about Kagan structures and why we use Kagan structures here at DAIS and the value behind it, as well as our recent data that we've gathered, how we're using that data, and what we're doing for our students who we feel we're most concerned about. And then to dive into distance learning, kind of sharing the journey that we've been on, the work that we did this summer, and the work that we have been doing with our students to help prepare if we ever have to go back to distance learning. So without further ado, I'll introduce Angela Beach, our new assistant principal.
Thank you guys. I am so excited to be here. I'm just thrilled. I am a little bit nervous just because I'm new and you guys are new to me and I'm new to you. But I am super passionate, I'm super excited, and I will just tell you a little bit about me. So I'm from Austin, Texas, born and raised. My husband is actually an employee here, and we spent 1 year in Madrid, Spain as language assistants. But other than that, this international gig that I've landed is very new. And so we are excited, we want to travel, we want to see the world, we want to show our boys different cultures and just what it means to live in a different place. So we are a family of 4. I work here at the elementary school as the assistant principal and curriculum specialist. My husband is a teacher over at the middle school. He's humanities and English. And then I have 2 young boys. I have a kindergartner and I have a pre-K student. And so we are quickly adjusting to this glorious life that we have here at DAIS. I am a graduate of the University of Texas at Austin. I have an elementary education degree as well as a master's degree in leadership and curriculum. I actually am starting my 8th year as an assistant principal here. I have 7 years of experience back in the States, and I will say the role looks different. It is a little bit different. We have larger class sizes, bigger buildings. My role primarily looked like a lot of behaviors, whereas here I get to dive into curriculum with teachers a little bit more. So it's very exciting. Our journey is just beginning. So like I mentioned, I think we are in the 6th week of being here in China. So when I say new, we're like really, really new. I was supposed to come back in June and kind of get a head start on some things and learn the systems and the processes here. And then that got pushed to July, and then to August, and then September, and then we finally got here. We actually landed in Guangzhou, quarantined there for 2 weeks, moved into our apartment here, and quarantined for an additional week. So we, as little as possible, spend time in our apartment and enjoy the community around us. And this picture right here that's covered up, which is okay, it was just a little picture, a visual, to just kind of explain me as an educator. This is actually a graphic that I took from Simon Sinek, who is an author who wrote a book, Start with the Why. And I think that explains beautifully who I am as an educator. My job and my passion is to always figure out what drives our students, what drives our teachers, what are they passionate about, and how can we collaboratively create something to help the future that we are building every single day. And so that's just a small visual. I could probably list to you what I do every day, take a couple pages, and how I do it, but my true passion lies right there in the middle of the why. And I was not young and decided, hey, I'm going to be a teacher when I grow up. I didn't know that. I went to college, I tried to figure it out. I struggled through elementary and middle school, just trying to be a learner, trying to discover and figure out who I was and how I learned best. And I think those struggles got me to where I am today. And I see the struggle and the passion behind our own students, and I want to help build them so that they know who they are and what they want in life. That's just a little bit about why I'm here. So we're going to just dive into what we do here at DAIS. This first slide is, what is Kagan? So at our school, we have, I would say, almost all of our teachers trained in Kagan cooperative learning. When you see Kagan, really what it is, it's cooperative learning strategies for our students, for our teachers, and even for us as adults to be able to use. And what it is we're creating small teams in our classrooms. We're putting students with varying abilities within those small teams. And then we're allowing them to improve their understanding of the instruction through these different learning activities. We all know, being parents, that our kids love to talk. I mean, my little ones talk my ears off all the time. So we know that we have to put them in a classroom, and we know we have to teach them this important content. Let's get them talking about the right stuff. Let's decrease behavior, talking off task, to talking about the learning in the classroom and the topics at hand, and getting them to struggle through explaining their thinking. And so that's really what we think about Kagan. That's what we're trying to achieve in our classrooms. I will say it is very planned, it is very strategic. It is not off the cuff, oh, maybe today I'll do a shoulder partner conversation. Our teachers are putting them into their lesson plans. They know this is the outcome that I want. How am I going to get them to reach this goal? This is an opportunity, a way, a type of learning to get our students there. So when do we use Kagan? We can think, so what I want you to think about, this slide right here really shows all the different types of thinking. Kagan believes that there are 15 fundamental types of thinking. And if you look at these lists here, you could probably place these types of thinkings in all different contexts, all different types of learning or types of learners. It could be something that you use in the beginning of the year just to get to know your peers and to get to know your students. It could be problem solving through a math problem, explaining your thinking, a science experiment. But we can use Kagan all the time. At any point in our school day, throughout our school year, we use it with our teachers in professional development to get them talking to each other and sharing their ideas. We use it at the beginning of the year when maybe we don't know everybody. Maybe we have new teachers and we want to do some fun, silly activities so we can break the ice a little bit. So This is just a small view of when we use it and how strategic the teachers really are when they plan. Okay, if I'm doing a math activity and I know that I want them to synthesize, but then I also want them to have different roles, I'm going to use specific types of strategies to achieve that goal. There's a lot of thinking behind it. And then, why do we use it? I've kind of touched on a little bit of this already, but it increases student engagement. We know our kids want to talk. Let's get them talking at the right times about the right things. They're actively involved. Again, the social interaction part. We also know our students are different types of learners. We've got our kinesthetic learners, we've got our students who need body breaks and need to stand up, move around the room, talk to different types of learners. It allows for that achievement in the classroom. And it also allows for different students to shine at different times. We're not all good at everything. We all have our strengths and our areas of growth. And so through Kagan, we're able to see that. And our teachers are able to see that as well. And take many little snippets of what our kids are good at and what they need to get better at. It increases language development. As an international school, that is something that we strive for. We always want to find ways where students can increase their language abilities in the classroom, whether it be they're a proficient language user in English and they can share their thought process, or they're still learning the English language and they can use that language to talk more. And it decreases behavior problems. That's definitely something that research has collected over time through Kagan. When we get our kids up and moving in a strategic way and we allow for them to really have that guided movement, their bodies are calm. They know what to expect and they know how to progress throughout the day. And then, of course, it is very fun. I have been in multiple classrooms already in the 6 weeks that I've been here, and the teachers are doing a beautiful job. Many times they'll play music to help the kids transition to their Kagan structure. They will stop the music, the students will start to talk, they'll have smiles on their faces. It really is a very cool thing to see. So we are actually going to engage in a small Kagan structure of our own. I am going to ask, this one is actually called a Standup Panda pair-up. We are trying to maintain some social distancing, and so what I want you guys to do, and this is just going to be a fun, silly one, we're going to stand up, we're going to put our hand up, and maybe just like elbow somebody around the room, and you can just share a fun fact about you. One of the things I really love about Kagan is it does really model eye contact, how to communicate with other people in a respectful manner. This one talks about hello, they say hello, make eye contact, and really listening, and teaching that active listening. So if you're on teams, you can just kind of sit tight, but parents, what you can do is you can stand up, you can find somebody that you don't know, and you can elbow them, and just take 1 minute to share a fun fact about you.
We'll do a little demonstration real quick.
Okay, let's demonstrate. All right, so the teacher
So I'm not
says,
going to do this because of,
the teacher says go, and you can find someone to elbow. And I'm going to participate, so let's go ahead and stand up.
Share something fun.
My name is Tomek.
I'm Ding.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah, nice to meet you.
Share something fun. Something fun is that I have the issue with my toe. I cannot run, but I love running, so I'm suffering a lot right now.
Is we'll play some music, and we'll have them walk around the room, and they're trailing after their buddy, and we'll say, okay, turn around, find another path, and then we'll stop the music, and whoever you're closest to is your talking partner for that activity. So thank you for humoring me through a small Kagan structure. I won't make you do it again, I promise. But that's just a little bit about Kagan and why we find it so beneficial in our schools. What I love so much is this quote tell me and I forget, teach me and I remember, involve me and I learn. And I love that because that's what we're doing through Kagan. We're involving our students through that daily struggle. How to communicate, what to communicate, the active listening. What did my teacher just ask me to do? I was so excited about partnering up with my friend, I forgot to listen to the instructions. So it really does create such an incredible environment to allow our students to be involved actively in the learning. Okay, so we're going to move on to our data to instruct. So at DAIS, we are extremely data rich, and we are super happy about it. We are constantly assessing our students, not always formally, but informally as well. I love this graphic because it really gives a nice picture that collecting data is not a one-time thing. It's not a one-stop shop. It really is a cycle. It allows for us to identify what are we going to teach, how are we going to assess what our students have to know. We capture that data. What does our assessment look like? Is it formal? Is it informal? Is it participation? Is it a paper pencil task? We analyze that data. Who is understanding what I'm asking them to learn? And then we create an action plan. We decide, okay, do I need to reteach? Do most of my students get this? And I don't need to spend as much time as I had originally planned. We can move on and challenge and enrich. So what I wanted to show you is what we do use for data here at DAIS. In the beginning of the year, the middle of the year, and the end of the year, we use what is called a MAP test. And so in kinder and grade 1, we assess both reading and math. Second grade, reading, language usage, and math. And then in grades 3 through 5, we also assess the science component. So you notice that scaffold year to year, it gets a little bit more rich. We also use a program for Words Their Way to identify spelling patterns and phonics and phonemic awareness, as well as a developmental reading assessment, DRN. This allows us to see how our students are progressing with their strengths through reading. What are they really good at, and what do we need to continue to show them and teach them in the classroom? In addition to that, teachers are always using formative and summative assessments as well. Formative assessments being possibly something informal. Maybe it's a quick checkpoint in a classroom. Possibly a group discussion, a small group discussion, and that participation based on how their answers are guides the next step. Formative instruction for us forms our teaching practices. It allows us to collect snippets of data and then make decisions about our next step before we get there. Summative, that's more of the end of the unit, the end of our teaching. How did they do based on everything that I taught? So this is a very wordy slide, so I do apologize, but I didn't want to take anything out because I did think it's very valuable for you guys to know what we do with all this data. So I say that we're data rich, but what does that really mean? If there's no value in having data if you're not doing anything with it. So each week I have the opportunity, Mr. Rowe and I actually have the opportunity to sit down with teachers and go through what's called co-planning. And so in our co-planning time, we actually have a time set aside to go through data protocols so that we can see how our students are doing. We have a global perspective of how our class grade level is doing, as well as a very, very specific understanding of how each individual student is progressing through their grade level expectations. So the first thing we do is we use that protocol to determine the baseline. Where are our students falling? How are they doing? Are they understanding what it is we're asking them to do every day? And then the teachers take some time through that protocol to reflect. What are some areas of strength globally within this grade level, within this class? What are areas of growth? What are the trends that I see? Percentages of students who exceeded or have met their growth target for the year. And we also look for comparison to the U.S. average. Being an international school, that's one thing we always want to keep up to date on. We then take it down into that specific lens and we look at each individual student. And so we analyze, how is this specific student responding within the classroom? Do they need more instruction in certain areas? Do they need less? Maybe we need to enrich Are they falling on the average? And so our goal is we want our students to learn, bottom line, and we want every student to make growth. But we also want to see where our students are falling in the relation to the end goal. Do they have a lot of growth to make? Do we need to enrich further? And then from there, we create a differentiated plan. We put them on a little pathway, and we know that as educators, these are the areas that I can focus on within the classroom, specifically for each individual student. And that actually segues perfectly into what we call response to intervention, RTI. So when we realize that our students may be struggling with specific concepts, we are creating that journey, that pathway for them, so that we can ensure that they're getting the best possible education that we can offer. And we are enriching, and we are providing interventions in the classroom. So we follow what's called a 3-tier model. If you see this picture right here, you'll notice that tier 1 really falls within that good core instruction. All of our kids fall within that tier 1. We're providing the best possible education we can for them, using best practices. Tier 2, we notice that some students are possibly struggling, and they're not making the growth that we had expected. We look at specific areas. Where are they struggling? It's not just reading, where in reading, comprehension, fluency, sequencing of events. So we identify all those areas. And then we have students that fall into the tier 3 range. That's intensive. They're not meeting the goals that we have for them. They're not making the growth that we had expected, even though we have specific interventions in place. And so we do follow this tier 3 model. It is very targeted to each individual child. And we take that data and we make decisions based off of the data. It's a combination of data though. We don't say, oh, they failed in one assessment, automatically they're a struggling student. We take teacher perception, we take classroom assessments, we take our diagnostic exams as well. And we put all of that together to make a decision about how we can support our students. We also progress monitor. So when our students are put on response to intervention, we monitor weekly. We set goals for them and we see are the interventions that we're trying in the classroom, are they even working? And then we continue to provide that high quality instruction, regardless of whether they're struggling or not. What I wanted to show you here is a different version, same idea. So we're still talking RTI. We're still talking that tier 1, tier 2, students are below grade level, and tier 3. Our mission is still to ensure that all students are learning. But what I love about this graphic is that you notice there's school-wide team responsibilities as well as teacher team responsibilities. And we strongly believe that our teachers need that support from us, whether it be ideas, observations, planning together, EAL support, to enrich the environment that they already have. So it is a true collaboration between teachers and administration and support teachers as well. And I'm done, and I'm going to pass it off. Yes.
Sorry, I have two quick questions.
Absolutely.
My kids are in elementary, and it was nice seeing you today. I didn't know about you.
Okay.
I'm glad that I was able to come to this meeting.
Yes.
So the Kagan Cooperative Learning,
Yes.
when did the management realize that we needed this kind of learning system for the American school? I mean, was it there in the plan, or it just...
That is such a wonderful question that Mr. Rowe will answer, since I am like 6 weeks in.
So that really goes to what we call a 21st century classroom. You'll see in our mission statement it talks about collaboration. And so we've been doing research now for probably my entire time here, for about 7 years, looking at what are the best practices to reach that 21st century classroom and to prepare them for the future workforce. And that's where Kagan came in. It is something that Dr. Lee had been working with in Korea when he came in, and he asked us as a leadership team, as a school, to take a look at it and asked us, is this something that we feel that we should adopt here? And so it started off as an optional activity for teachers, and then this past year we made it mandatory for for all teachers to participate.
And all the data that we just saw today, the data cycle and the 3-tier model, this is all based on the Kagan learning, or is that different?
I apologize, no. So Kagan itself is a company that has it has cooperative learning strategies. In our building, on our campus, we have a protocol that we've created to allow teachers to go through the process of data collection and data understanding, but they are not directly tied together.
Okay, so it's totally different.
Yes.
Thank you.
The RTI model comes through the data to Instruct when we are looking at how our students are responding to the education. So you can pull that one piece out and say, how are our students responding? That's where RTI comes in.
Okay.
So is it based on the assessment tests that have been carried out throughout the school year?
As well as teacher data in the classroom, all assessments across the board, informal and formal.
Yeah, just one important thing to note that we don't ever look just at one test. We use what's called triangulation. We want multiple data points to help inform instruction, but also to help inform RTI.
Okay, that was a good job.
Right. I'm going to have to be quick here. All right, I'd like to, want to thank Ms. Angela Beach for her presentation on Kagan. The next portion of the presentation is really going to be focused on distance learning. As you all may know, I was just looking at my calendar, I think it was February 25th, I was skiing in Japan when I got my email from Dr. Lee, and I worked for the next 3 months straight. But I want to first of all thank you all for working with us. It's been a journey, one that we are still on, and we have learned a lot as a school. When this first hit, when we were doing all the research around what distance learning is, around synchronous and asynchronous learning, what does ideal online learning look like, everything we looked at was for the short term. True online learning is at the university level where you actually take an online course and you learn online. For a lot of the research that we're doing, it was short term, there's a natural disaster, there's something that has occurred, you're only online for a brief period of time, and then you go back face to face. So we learned a lot over the journey, and what we'd like to share with you today is the work that Mr. Newton and his committee worked on this summer, doing a deep dive into research, deep dive into best practices, leaning on great international schools around the world, stealing from them, borrowing from them, and really setting us up for success should we have to return to distance learning. So without further ado, we'll pass things on.
He said stealing, I call it paying homage. We're paying homage to some other schools. So, I would like for everyone to consider this to be the first step in our parent training. We don't like to use the word training, but our outreach part of our distance learning model. And then we'll talk about a little bit where we are in the progression. As Mr. Rose said, I was a part of a research committee this summer. We spent most of the summer looking at university level academic research, also experiences that we had here. Our school, being where it is in the world, was actually leading the way in a lot of the research because of the timing that the time that we closed and the time that we had to deal with the coronavirus and government regulations and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So there wasn't a lot out there outside of East Asia. With that being said, we were able to find some that we really liked, and we put it together. We took feedback from that we collected throughout the year, every survey that went out from the school, every text message I sent that had the word coronavirus in it, or distance learning, and we compiled it all together into something that hopefully I feel has really benefited the school and the students, and I want to just introduce it to you today. It's really not revolutionary, but it is documented, and it's something that we can now have a conversation about. And really, there are some lessons that were learned, as Mr. Rowe referred to, but a lot of things that we ended up with in May, if it worked, if we felt like it was effective, if it felt like it hit the target goals, we kept that. If it's something that we needed to change, for example, our preparation level, that is something that we took some more drastic changes that we're going to talk about now. So, very quickly, and I'm going to try to go through this as quickly as possible, and consider all of these to be itself its own meeting. That one day in the future we will have conversations specifically about these. I am not the expert on all of these areas. I do not have kids of my own at home. So, for example, screen time per hour per day. That is a parent decision. That is something that we had thought about as an educator. It was the parents who came in with their emails, lovely emails saying that we may be having the kids sit in front of that computer too long each day. Some parents, they felt like they were sitting long enough in front of the computer each day. So that is one of those areas. So very quickly, distance learning, online learning, and hybrid instruction. Distance learning, as you know, that is when the kids cannot be face-to-face. However, online learning is a subset of distance learning. That is one of the lessons that we've learned, is that it does not have to be online for it to be distance. There are activities that are offline activities that are done when you're not face-to-face with the teacher. I think because of the suddenness of the way the coronavirus took over and the way that school was canceled, we did not have enough time to kind of gather our resources and move forward. Now we do. We don't have that same excuse the next time we have to close the school. If it, heaven forbid, if it closes tomorrow, we should be much more prepared now than we were back in, you said February, I really think it was January.
It was January.
Yeah.
We were on vacation.
Online learning is exactly that. That's the kid sitting in front of the computer, probably a teacher sitting on the other end. That is the part that is, I think we now call it a necessary evil, but it's not. It is also a way for us to reach out socially to the kids, which was another one of those areas that we had to grow new skills in. And then hybrid instruction is something that we don't think we'll ever need. Sorry, let me not say that because this can be recorded, and then when it happens, I'll be blamed. Hybrid instruction is when some of the students can come to school and some of the students cannot. We are currently, technically, in a hybrid instruction situation now in some grade levels. Fourth grade, there are 2 students in 4th grade that are not here for governmental reasons, for immigration reasons or quarantine reasons, yada, yada, yada. With that being said, we still have some responsibilities to teach those students. Now, defining those responsibilities is a process that we're still in. I know the homeroom teachers are setting up live streams every day and sending work home. So we are technically, that is a teacher thing. So if you hear this, and if you're going on the internet, you're going to hear these 3 things used the same way in different ways. I just want you to know that this is how we use it. Screen time per hour per day, that is something that we are monitoring. That is something that we will need your assistance to help monitor. Asynchronous versus synchronous, that I'm just very quickly, Mr. Rowe's going to go over it. Basically, it's what assignments are being done at the same time for everybody in the class, and what assignments can be done independently at the convenience of the family that's working on that assignment. We all remember that as soon as people started leaving the place, then all of a sudden I had a class in 20 different time zones. So it's not reasonable to ask students to stay up until 3 o'clock in the morning, et cetera, so that is the reason we have 2 different kinds here. One of the big ones, and this is the biggest, I don't want to say aha moment for me, but one of the things that I felt that myself as a teacher, and then also as a school and as an elementary, that we needed to really exercise more of is the social-emotional learning part. I don't want to make excuses, but I think because of the suddenness of the way it happened in January, that it was grab what was the most important thing. And of course, every teacher said, I'm grabbing my academics. And they grabbed their academics and hit the internet. However, at the onset, I think we left too much of this behind. Checking in with kids, talking to parents. I'll use my I statements. I'm guilty of this as well. And I am not the most warm and fuzzy person in class, but I will say that I have learned that I need to do more. Not as a, someone was about to agree with me, not as a preventative measure, but as a preparation measure. I want the kids to be able to talk to me about what's on their mind. I want them to be able to articulate to you what is on their mind. Some kids are great at it, some kids are not. In my family, my brother was great at that. Me, not so much. So that is something that we're talking about, and that's where you start seeing Kagan being used, and you start hearing about character counts. These are things that we're talking about identifying what's driving us and what's driving us crazy. So that is something that is a longer process that we're working on, and that'll be a longer conversation between parents and the school. And then here's the big one down here: preparation versus reaction. We cannot be in a reaction mode anymore. We don't have that excuse, and the school, sorry. We don't have that excuse anymore. We are now in preparation mode. If it never happens, oh well. If it happens tomorrow, I'm glad we did the work we did. Now, what work did we do? Button. Now.
I'm going to point it at the computer. Did you turn it on?
I did not. Hello, computer.
Maybe it's no.
What did you do? Oh. All right, here we go. So I want to start off with, or wrap it up depending on how long I have. I want to talk about coping with change. So in my work, I'm the design teacher, but I'm also on the tech committee, which means, and then I was part of that group this summer, which means I get invited to a lot of meetings now. So I work a lot with the teachers and the students about this. My work with the teachers, I want to share a little bit about that with you. And I want you to reflect about yourselves, because I want to validate how you may be feeling right now, honestly. I have teachers and friends and coworkers and parents that are way over here on this side of the preparation spectrum, meaning I'm not ready to talk about it. It was traumatic. It's referred to as a trauma. It's still going on. Some teachers have not seen their families in over 2 years before the coronavirus. So for some people, it is still an open wound to them. And then here comes Mr. Newton saying, we need to work on our online learning, and I've learned to understand that. At first I didn't, but now I do. And then there's the other end of the spectrum that's, we're not doing enough to get ready. We need to be doing this now. We need to have more meetings, we need to have more training. I'm over here, personally. And I've told the teachers this, and I've told them this 1,000 times every time I meet with them. I respect you. You can be wherever you want. I no longer feel that everyone should be with me. However, I know that parents are all over the place on here too. Some parents don't want to talk about it. Some parents want to focus on other things. Great. There are some parents who are over here with me. Also great. These two people have to be the administrators for everyone, no matter where they are in the spectrum. They have to be the administrators for every teacher on this spectrum, which at times I've heard can be challenging, especially this guy. There's a gap between me and them, and this is them as administrators, not them as people. There's a gap between me and probably some of you. There's a gap between me and the other teachers. There's some people who are over here that I'm not quite to that level. That can cause me one of two reactions. At times it causes me both. But there was a lot of frustration, personal frustration, at the beginning of this, and this is probably why I started doing this, and now I'm on committees over the summer. That's the economy. But I have learned to accept it. And the reason I accept it is because the school has very much backed this idea of preparation. That we need to get ready, we need to line everyone up and say, okay, here's our plan, communication, all the things you're going to be hearing about. So here's the plan so far. We started with the teachers. It started in late summer, research groups, training. Actually, it started end of last year. The teachers had to be on board. The teachers had to get their learning models together. There had to be continuity between the classes. We're still working on it. It's a lot. There's a lot of moving pieces. Curriculum, academic behavior, things like that. We have just finished phase 1 of working with the students. If I have to change one more password, I'm going to cry. However, that is one of the things that we've worked on. Introducing them to teams, showing them what their email looks like, all the things we wish we had time for back in February, but we didn't have time for. So now we don't have that excuse. So now, without too much delay, I hope, we are now with the parents. And this is step 1 for us. It will not always be me. I'm a member of a larger group. I'm actually here because Ms. Warbeck, who's in America right now, can't come back because of the same government regulations that keep some of my students out. So, let me just very quickly go through. I'm getting the eye from my boss. Let me just very quickly go through this. These are some of the things that we've done with the students and the teachers. I hope none of the teachers watch this video. They've attended 5 or 6 weeks of a tech boot camp. That's everything that's pre-K on up. Now, it's not boot camp. It's not that serious. But basically, it's for little kids. It's learning, being comfortable around a computer. For older kids, it's about independence. We're building social awareness. We're building that as a practice. We've done quite a few professional developments with the teachers. Elementary, just to be fair, has an advantage. The homeroom teachers especially are quite good at it. I mean, they essentially wrote the book on social emotional learning. Coming from their computer, encouraging teachers and students to use online resources. I myself and a couple other teachers have started putting some of our fun stuff online. Some teachers are putting some of their homework online with training and letting the kids know if you want to be part of this fun group, like I have a fun little lunch group, recess group, and I say if you want to know the details, you need to go online. It's something I wish I had done back in February. Researching is still continuing. We get articles every day from different people, different groups. Converting elements of instruction to online learning. This is something that is a bigger, longer struggle for us. Turning our academics into online learning is probably not that, I almost said not that hard. It's the least hard of all the challenges. Transferring our culture online and transferring the reason students like being at school online is the much harder, in my opinion, it is the much harder challenge, the much more difficult challenge. How do you transfer a community time to online? Kids love it, teachers are on the fence, but the kids like seeing themselves. So, another long conversation. And then encouraging preparedness and flexibility with everyone. Good? Keep going. Okay, we're going to wrap it up here. Here's what's coming. Parent information sessions like this one. This is number 1. Once a month, mostly. It'll be around the same time as
December 3rd.
December 3rd. Okay.
Sorry, I didn't check
That's what
that.
TBD to be determined. It's going to be once a month mostly. And it's going to focus on. It's just going to go down the list of important issues. Now, we saw the spectrum before. If you are the type of parent that has a question, do not wait. You can email me. You don't necessarily need to email them. You can email me, and I will answer it happily because I'm there with you. I don't know. There's not enough time in the day for me. However, I have to learn some peace and to go to sleep at night. We're also doing for the people who are online and the people that want to work at their own pace. We're working on starting some walkthrough videos. How to log on to Teams. What is Teams? What do these channels mean? How to do different things. Short little videos, 3 to 5 minutes. We've made one. I didn't like it, so we're starting over. But eventually those will be available on our stream service and YouTube. for those who can, the less I say about that, the better. Link will be sent out email, and then go at your own pace. And like we use it, we like have a specific question, and we go to that video and do it. Very quickly, Teams is a communication tool. I just want to separate these out. And then when you hear about, oh no, not another website, the kids sometimes love it, even the kids at this point. But just remember, Teams is the core communication, and if we have to go online, core communication, core instruction. That is where the teacher and the students can talk to each other when the internet's working. However, all these other things, and not every grade level uses every app, and we will go through this later when we have more time. Not every grade level uses every one of these. A lot of these are self-paced, and some of these are, you're doing it once for this activity and that's it. Some of these are, you may want to check every day, like Seesaw. Some teachers use it for like homework and things like that. So, I'm going to skip this one because we can talk about this in another time. I'm getting the eyeball here. I just want everyone to know that these are our 4 areas, and you're not supposed to see the arrows, but just remember for next meeting. These are all connected, and when we make decisions, and when we talk to you, and we start having conversations instead of me talking the whole time, when we start having conversations, this is what we'll be talking about. How do we maintain high standards, and how do we make sure the kids are taken care of? How do we make sure the parents are taken care of? Distance learning, Mr. Rowe's going to go over a little bit about that. This is more about tech preparedness. This is just a preview. We will probably spend an entire one of these talking about what to do at home. What we're asking you to do at home. And then, Mr. Rowe.
So, some things that, thank you, Mr. Nick.
You're welcome.
Some things that, should we have to return to distance learning, things that you can do to help us at home. Make sure that your child is waking up and dressed. I think the more we treat it like a regular school day, the better it is for everybody. I know that sometimes parents have trouble getting their kids out of bed, they're showing up in their pajamas, their hair was all
Somewhere in bed.
Somewhere like bed. And that's where it's so important that should we need to return to distance learning, treat it like a regular school day. You're up, hopefully by 8 o'clock, you're fed, you're dressed. We really highly recommend having a dedicated workspace somewhere where you can see them, where the IE can see them. So it's in the living room, it's in the dining room, somewhere where you can see what's going on. It's not in their bedroom where they can lock their door. Review a schedule with them. One thing I'm asking all of our teachers to do is they start the day by reviewing the daily schedule, and then for each class, the routines of the class every day. And so when you're having breakfast, just talk to your son or daughter about what is their schedule for the day. And they should know it. And I know with the little ones, it's going to take some time, but it's just good for them to be thinking, all right, this is what I have to be doing today. Of course, having your device ready to go, so you don't have to wait at 8:40, computer should be on and you're waiting for class to start. And just take the time to connect with your children. Give them breaks during the day and talk to them, engage with them on how their lesson went, how their day is going, making sure that they're having some brain breaks to do some stretching, some activities, maybe just even playing with some toys, just to get them away from the screen. And then at the dinner time, like we're really encouraging just no devices after a certain point in the day. You know, learning's done for the day. Let's sit as a family. Let's eat a meal together. Let's talk about what we learned about today. And that's a time to do that emotional check-in with your child. And what we have, we'll be sending this out in email. But the idea here is, we'll send it out in paper form. Something to go on the fridge for you. It's a quick QR link to Seesaw and Teams. You can jot down the password and the username for your child. Just some of those tips that we talked about. And then here are some sentence starters that you can use with your child. I feel proud to see, I appreciate seeing or hearing. I felt sad when, and just things to talk and use with your child. Over here, Mr. Newton has put this together, and this will go home as well. So right now we have the DAIS passwords, or the Office 365 passwords, Typing Club. There'll be Seesaw passwords in there, and then if they're using, let's say, RAS Kids, there'll be RAS Kids.
Depending on their homeroom teachers, some of the, like, I asked, do you want Seesaw on there? And it was, some of them use like a picture code type thing that wouldn't fit on here. So depending on the homeroom, everyone is getting the top two, Office and Typing Club. Those are the two programs that every student in our building uses.
Okay, I'll stop there and I'll open it up for questions, and maybe I can ask Mr. Newton to keep an eye on online. Just any questions for myself or Mr. Newton about distance learning?
We have muted participants.
So next time we'll meet on December 3rd.
It'll be December 3rd. Sorry, it's in my last slide. I didn't remember to go and change it.
Do we change the password or it's always the same?
Okay, so we've just recently updated all the passwords. So I believe Audrey's will be the same as it was before. But the grade 2 students now all have unique passwords and up. The lower grade pre-K 1, K1 still have a standard password. And that's just for ease, otherwise the children won't remember and we have a hard time. It's even a challenge with grade 2 students, but
Some teachers.
yeah.
Even if they're pre-K, even if they're kindergarten, they're going to get one of these papers. Even the password will be exactly the same for both. So,
Yeah.
but we want them to get used to having something visual in their house that has their information on it.
Part of that, we did ran into an issue about halfway through online learning where some students were logging in as other students. And so recognizing the need to make unique and distinct passwords. Okay, just a friendly reminder. We're talking about data. All the map reports, the growth and how your child is doing, how they grew from last year, it's all linked in PowerSchool. It'll be there, you can access it through PowerSchool. A report card is going to be accessible through PowerSchool. And so tomorrow I'll send out these instructions along with these papers. But if you could please, if you haven't done already, please get yourself logged into PowerSchool. That'll just be how we can share documents with you. Okay, and just some upcoming events. Tomorrow, of course, Halloween. We've got the Family Fun Night. Monster Mash will be out on the field. Please come and join us. We have our next community time, grade 4. So I was thinking, I'm not sure yet if we're able to have families on campus yet or not, but we'll send an update next week. We have an early release day on the 27th of November. For those of you who don't know, we set a trigger date of November 28th. So that was whether or not we have 3 weeks at winter break or just 2 weeks at winter break. If we're all able to internationally travel, there'll be 3 weeks. Most likely it's going to be 2 weeks because I don't see that happening, but that's that date. We'll hold the next parent information session on December 3rd. The focus of that will be report card and standards-based grading, and we'll also do distance learning as well. Report card is going out on the 4th, where students will be coming in on December 12th for our Makeup Saturday. And of course, winter vacation right now, it's December 21st, and it's either to January 4th or January 11th based on our trigger date.
Question.
Yes?
Question from the audience online. Are we anticipating online learning anytime soon, or is this just some sort of preparation?
100% preparation. I think I speak for everybody that the last thing we want to do is to go back online, but we just have a duty of care, due diligence to be prepared for the worst. So we're just preparing right now.
And the second question is just for my own purposes. By show of hands, How many of you would attend a longer, like, distance learning training session? Or is tying it to once a month to here enough? You're not gonna hurt my feelings at all. Raise your hand if you would like a longer. Okay. Oh, they're not here.
I'll make Mr. Newton do one and we'll see how many parents show.
Yes, no snacks.
So
My question, is these sessions only for elementary parents or for secondary as well?
What sessions? These
Like this
sessions.
one, yes.
This is strictly for elementary. Strictly for elementary.
And then next one as well.
Yeah, my sessions are just DIS elementary.
Okay.
There probably will be other whole school information sessions, but no, these are just, you get to listen. And before I forget, there'll be, Dr. Lee will be releasing the work that Mr. Newton and his committee worked on, which is our distance learning plan. It's about a 30-page document. And in there in the appendix is the divisional kind of succinct plan should we need to return. So that, I believe, is being sent out tomorrow.
I just want to comment, we wrote it for single audience. The research that we really liked there wasn't a parent version or student version or teacher version. So there will be some things in there that are, like, there were some things that the teachers had to read that were for the parents, and it was out of the effort for transparency. We wanted everybody to see everything. So when you look at it, there may be some things that are like, wait, that's a secondary thing, or that's a administrator thing. Just keep that in mind, it's for everyone.
Right, well, if there's any other questions?
Any more questions online?
Yes, I have some questions. This last week I heard from Tina about EPIC. Tina doesn't use the EPIC after school. And I want to know this normally, or maybe or she needs some other code to EPIC.
To access Epic?
Yes.
I'm not 100% sure. So it works at school.
At school, yes.
After school, it doesn't
But
work.
after school, so it doesn't. You couldn't.
I think they have own school teacher in
Okay, let me check with Ms. Stark.
Yeah,
She
yeah.
organizes that. It
Yes.
may be that it's
Yeah.
a school account versus
Some
a...
children like EPIC very much.
Okay.
And
Okay.
I'll check with the teachers, see what is actually being required.
I
Yeah.
think from the parent
Yeah,
perspective,
we
they
need
want
extra.
extra
Yeah.
after school hours. And so since it's after school hours, they can't access it. And I do know what she's talking about, because it happened to my child as well.
Epic used to be free,
Yeah.
from what I understand. And I think it's still free to teachers, but then now they want to, I think, want to make some money, and so that might be the problem. But we'll check and get back to you.
It doesn't work for us.
Doesn't work for you either.
I emailed the teacher and then she said that she'll get back to me, so I'll
Okay.
do that.
Did it work before and now it stopped, or
Yeah,
did
it used to work.
that's not good.
We'll get back to her.
Yeah.
Any other questions? It doesn't have to be related to the presentation, just any questions. I'm happy to answer. Yes, I'll send it out. Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate you coming, and I look forward to seeing you tomorrow and December 7th.